Hi, everybody. We're with the WWD Content Studio here at Magic, chatting with the co-founder and chief strategy officer of Digital Brand Architects, Raina Penchansky. So, Raina, do you mind telling us what Digital Brand Architects is?
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Digital Brand Architects is a management firm for all digital influencers. So anyone who has a large presence on a digital platform, we act as their traditional manager.
Cool. And so before we get into kind of like the nitty-gritty of what Digital Brand Architects does, what kind of sparked this initial idea?
It was a power walk on the Hudson River with my partner, Karen, about 7 years ago. And essentially Karen actually was a journalist and I was a publicist in New York. And we were just watching something sort of shift in terms of where people were getting their information from, what was sort of creating purchasing intent for people. And it was really coming from these fashion bloggers, these street style fashion bloggers. And what we were really attracted to was the kind of content they were creating. And we saw a bit of a movement taking place. And we said, at some point, these people are going to need to be managed and help to develop them into brands themselves, and that was the impetus.
So then from that initial idea, what are some of the steps you took to make DBA a reality?
DBA became a reality when we started to bring managers into the equation. So it was really, we have two partners at DBA, Vanessa Flaherty and Risa Lake, and I think that was when we started to really bring other people into the fold with us is when it became a reality. And we were lucky that when we started DBA 7 years ago, there were about 20 influencers who immediately on sort of the start, day one of DBA, signed with us. So
That's
we really
amazing.
hit the ground running.
Yeah, especially in a market that is so elusive, and influencer really only became a term probably 7 years ago. So DBA really hopped on that train. What was the biggest business hurdle you had with DBA and starting your own company?
So hands down, the biggest challenge for us was no one took what we were doing seriously. I mean, literally people would laugh in our face and tell us that nobody cared about influencers, no one was ever going to pay an influencer, and influencers would never be considered their own brands. So for us, it was really the sort of education process of explaining to people what the importance was of this entire new type of content creator. And that was just honestly for the first 3 or 4 years of DBA, it was just sort of persevering. And I think that's just the best thing you can do no matter what.
Interesting that you say you kind of had to educate people to get them to buy in. Is there a campaign that you worked on in the beginning that really you use as you used as the main case study for that education?
It was more about when fashion brands, more of the sort of storied old school luxury brands started working with influencers and sitting front row at fashion shows and when they were really starting to move the needle in terms of their audiences learning from them, buying from them. That was really the moment when it kind of crystallized, when you started to see it enter into a little bit more of the mainstream.
Yeah, so what has been one of the biggest successes of your company so far?
I think that honestly the biggest success is that we've been disruptive, and I think in a good way. I like to think that we've created a little bit more of an egalitarian space in terms of content creation and people who have a voice in food and fashion and lifestyle and home and wellness, and really allowing the large majority of our clients are women, and really giving women an opportunity to really build their own brands and build their own businesses.
For a lot of the brands out there, what advice would you give them when wanting to work with influencers, especially those bigger influencers that do require a bit more budget?
The best advice I can give to any brand is just use your gut and your intuition. If you are drawn to someone's content, you're drawn to that content for a reason. And it's probably because you think it aligns with your brand. So sometimes you have to kind of throw the numbers aspect of this out the window and really look at how it is and why you're connecting with that person and on what level, and how you think that they would interact with your brand, and how do you think that they would represent your brand in the best way. And sometimes that aligns with someone who has a really large audience, and sometimes it doesn't, and that audience is a little more niche. And I think it's really, what's most important is to just sort of on a gut level understand how that influencer is going to really resonate with your brand's audience.
What would you say is one of the most valuable parts of influencer marketing for a brand?
I mean, it's speaking to your audience directly and being able to get instant feedback, and being able to really see an ROI and understanding what exactly your audience wants in a really rapid way and what they want to purchase from you.
How do you kind of determine the pricing for an influencer? Like what goes into a rate or a collaboration?
It all has to start first and foremost with, is this a brand that influencer will want to work with organically? Because we really encourage, and every single one of our influencers organically just only wants to work with brands that really would be a fit for them, whether or not they were being compensated. And then once you've sort of crossed that hurdle, the question is, what does the scope of work look like? What is the frequency of the post? What's the lifetime of the campaign? And there are just a lot of more logistical questions that sort of come into it.
What is next for digital brand architects?
Well, we're here talking about influencers, which is the perfect place, because I think that something that we're really focused on with our products division, which is digital brand products, is really now taking some of our clients and bringing them to market with their own products and their own brands. And you've seen that a lot. Obviously, you've got brands like Glossier and a number of other brands, but I think that really the intersection of commerce, content, and product development is really exciting.